The Home Office want to determine if your relationship is genuine and subsisting or not. How do you do that? Well, in order to do that, you have to understand from a psychological perspective what it is that makes a relationship genuine and subsisting. Then you have to look at what it is that the Home Office look for in conjunction with that in order for you to evidence that your relationship is genuine and subsisting. And then you look at what happens in a situation where the Home Office don't think your relationship is genuine and subsisting, and how do you prepare for something like that? We're going to be discussing all of that here. Now, when we're looking at a relationship from a psychological perspective, we're going to need to determine if the relationship is genuine and subsisting or not by understanding what a relationship is. Now, if I close my eyes and search for research associated with the relationships by throwing a stone, I will hit the Sternberg principle every single time. The Sternberg principle effectively has a triangle, and it says that every single relationship that you have with every person around you can be codified within that triangle, especially when it comes to a romantic relationship. So now I'm going to assume those of you who are brave enough to venture down the rose petaled bridal ways of love know already what the Sternberg principle is. You wouldn't venture down there without knowing, but for those of you who don't know, I'll explain to you what it is. You've got three elements. The first element is intimacy, the second element is passion, and the third element is decision commitment. Now, these are the things that the Home Office have attached their requirements onto, so they're very important. Starting off with intimacy. Intimacy is when you get to know someone, when you really know who they are as a person. You have communication with them, you have an emotional connection with them, and the communication and the connection develop a bond between both of you. Then we've got passion. We all know what passion is, and also YouTube is PG-13, so I'm not going to go into detail about that. However, there is something very important that I'd like to say about it, which I'm going to say towards the end of the video, so stick around for that. Then, number three, decision commitment. Decision commitment is actually taking the decision to commit to your relationship. What that effectively means is, have you shown that you are committed to this relationship through physical acts? For example, are you talking to one another over prolonged periods of time? Have you uprooted your entire life and are willing to move across to another country because of your partner? And are you financially supported by your partner? Or are you financially supporting your partner to the extent that there is financial trust and commitment there? Now let's have a look at how the Home Office interpret this in order to find out if your relationship is genuine and subsisting or not. So a genuine and subsisting relationship will have people that are constantly talking to one another. They will have people who are flying out to see one another. They will have people who are financially supporting one another, sending each other gifts. All of that is part of the actual act of decision commitment. Now, the evidence that they're looking for, therefore, relates directly to this. So, in terms of communication, they'd want to see text messages from you when your communication initially started, because that will show them how long you've been putting up with one another for, how long you have been committed with one another. They will also want to see that you're in constant communication with one another. And that can be shown by sending periodic messages equally spread out in terms of screenshots in a Word document in chronological order. Let's make things easy for them. And it's possible to show this by telephone calls to one another. So, a record of that should also be sent. In terms of flying out to one another, now the Home Office have a very strict criteria on what they deem as appropriate evidence. Booking confirmations, boarding passes, passports, stamps, these are the kind of things that you need to be able to show. Pictures of you going on those holidays and seeing one another. All of this collectively together shows that on the balance of probability, there is a genuine and subsisting relationship, or at least on the balance of probability, you did in fact go and fly to see your partner, or you did both meet at a mutual third country. The Home Office might also want to see that there's financial commitment. So the way you show this is money transfer receipts. If you've been sending gifts, retain that evidence and show that evidence as well. They might want to see that you've cohabited at some point in your life, or you are currently cohabiting. The way you would show that is by showing evidence in the form of utility bills or other documents from third parties, independent third parties, that is coming to your home equally for both of you. Now, generally, the Home Office asks for six different sources of evidence for both of you collectively. And if either piece of evidence is missing either of the names, one each should be provided to substitute that. So now that's the kind of thing the Home Office is looking for in order to see that there is indeed decision commitment in the relationship. But what happens in a situation where you're unable to prove to the Home Office that there's a decision commitment? Now, generally, when you make an application, the Home Office is only going to look at this criteria at the first instance. So at the point that you're making the application, this is what you're going to be providing: decision commitment evidence. So you're going to show the Home Office that I am committed to this relationship, and that is all they'll want to see. But what happens if they don't believe you? They'll want to see other evidence. Now we're going into the intimacy criteria, because what they'll generally do is interview you independently. They'll interview your partner, then they'll interview you, and then they'll have a look at the questions and answers together in order to determine how many you got right and how many you got wrong, and whether you actually bonded to one another emotionally or not, whether you've actually been discussing things together or not, whether you have actually let your partner in emotionally or not. Believe it or not, this is the extent that they go to. Now, the way they do this is they ask you questions in relation to your lives. They say, what time does your partner wake up in the morning? How does your partner go to work? What transport does he use? What time does your partner come back from work? What time do you talk? How often do you talk throughout the day? What future plans have you discussed? What do you intend to do when you come into the UK? How many children do you intend to have? Have you spoken about having children? All of this stuff is going to be asked. If you want to look at a full list of the type of questions that the Home Office will ask you, because this is pretty much the tip of the iceberg, have a look at one of my other videos. It goes into detail about every aspect and every category of question that the Home Office will be asking you. But for this stage, that is what they are trying to determine. They are not satisfied that you have decision commitment. So they're not now trying to see if you have intimacy or not. And if you're unable to prove intimacy, then the final element left is passion. Now, don't be sending them your pictures to show them that you're in a passionate relationship. The way they determine passion is by seeing whether you have a child or not. If you do have a child, perfect. The rest of the stuff becomes a little bit easier on the balance of probability. However, if they don't think that the relationship is genuine and subsisting at all, and very rarely this does happen, this happens in situations where people mess up really badly in their applications. And so the Home Office do not believe that the relationship is genuine and subsisting. Even if you have a child, they might ask for a DNA test. If you provide a DNA test, again, it might become a little bit easier, or the Home Office might still maintain their stance and say you'd have to be able to prove this in front of an independent judge. And that's the problem people have sometimes when they don't have solicitors, or when they do this sort of stuff themselves without knowing exactly what they need to do. And it's important to know why we need this type of evidence and what kind of evidence the Home Office is looking for, and why they're looking for that kind of evidence. Because unless you know that, if you're not able to provide a single category of documentation, you should be able to substitute that with another category of documentation which equally shows on the balance of probability that the relationship is genuine and subsisting. Or you should at least be able to argue why you can't provide a document that would be able to show that the relationship is genuine and subsisting. And remember, each one of these documents alone is not enough. For example, messages alone are not enough. Messages on their own can't be enough. It's not good evidence, is it? I can write a message to myself and just change the name, and I can do that over a prolonged period of time, or change the date on my phone and take screenshots of it. I could probably do that. So the Home Office are not going to look at one and each individual piece of evidence on its own. Collectively, they have agreed to look at this evidence, even though it's not good evidence on its own. Collectively, on the balance of probability, can show that there's a genuine subsisting relationship, which means each element and each category of that evidence is necessary. So you should be able to make arguments at least for evidence that you're unable to provide. And that is why knowing why they want it is so important. This applies equally throughout every aspect of immigration. And there are other rules as well, where we need to understand why the Home Office are asking evidence in exactly the same way in order to determine what it is that we're providing to them. There is a system here based on human beings and how human beings interact and how human beings are. Because, of course, these are family life applications. If you want us to consider your application, feel free to get in contact with me, and we'll be more than happy to look at your circumstances and tell you how much we charge.